Dear brothers, good morning, boys. Big Wednesday, halfway through the week here. We got some stuff to talk about. You guys know that I'm in the midst of writing this book right now. And so naturally, I am buried in various books on the topics that are going into it. And it's been an enlightening endeavor. But one of the things that's going to come up in the book on multiple occasions that I have now seen in different pieces of current and past literature is the fact that most men today don't have a true north, or they don't feel like they have a purpose. A purpose void has been used by several different authors. And this purpose void is essentially the fact that men today are, one, not the sole breadwinner. They are not the sole income maker of the family in a lot of cases. And two, they don't have to be warriors as we did once upon a time. We still have people that serve in the military, but it is not a mandated aspect of life for all men. Most men are not joining the military or forced to join the military. So that concept of them being a warrior who goes forth and battles so that their families can go forward and live has basically fallen to the wayside. So because men have lost those two aspects, they're not the sole breadwinner in their family, or to that end, they are not even the highest breadwinner in their family. And they don't have to be a quote unquote warrior who is going forth and fighting wars. And, think back to, maybe your grandparents or great grandparents that served in World War I, World War II, even people that served in Vietnam, like they were looked at as warriors, and they themselves looked at themselves that way. And that gave them purpose in life, even though when they came home, there were many people who pushed them to the side, which is what we see with many soldiers today, which leads to many of the issues we see with suicide and all of that, which I'm not going to get into that today. That'll be another conversation what we can have. But what I do want to talk about is that I agree there is a purpose void in men today. And I would agree with those examples as well that we are seeing that have been reported is men are not the sole breadwinners in their family, which does give purpose, and they're not warriors. However, I am going to argue against the latter a little bit today. Because, yes, I agree that we may not have to be warriors on a battlefield overseas. I understand that. And I understand that we're not forced to do that. I am grateful for the peace that we have relatively had compared to older days when we were forced to go and fight against an enemy. However, one of the things that has happened with this decrease in the necessity, if you will, of being a warrior is that generically men have softened to the idea of being warrior-like. And what I mean by that is we've talked on here at length about the necessity of being dangerous. The opposite being you aren't dangerous, which just means that you are harmless. And that can't be acceptable for men today. It is obvious that we are stronger physically than the women that are in our lives. There are exceptions to those rules, but guess what? Not many. And we are called in every way, shape, and form, contrary to what modern day peoples may tell you, to be protectors and leaders. And so as I've been going through these books and looking at kind of this idea that men need to find, there's a purpose void in their lives. And they talk about how being a warrior is one of those voids. I don't see a place where that warrior has been told to stop being that way. There's no Just because life is peaceful doesn't mean you can't be capable, you can't be training, you can't be practicing to protect your family if the need were to come along. I think that that's what we've gotten confused, is that because times have been a little bit easier in some ways and in a lot of ways, I think it's funny to think that people imagine today being far worse than what it was once upon a time when people were just grabbing random people on the street and crucifying them for basically fun. That's why we should read history. However, because we have had good times, we've all seen that little circle of, good times lead to weak men lead to bad times lead to good men. Well, I think one of the things that we're misconstruing or that we're not understanding well is that is a very true circle. And when times are good, that is when you as a man should be training even harder. Focusing on building your strength, building your mental capacity, building your training with firearms. And, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around the fact that we don't view, because men aren't going off to war constantly, that all of a sudden they have to be passive and soft and incapable of violence. Like, oh, we don't need that anymore, so we don't need you to do it. Okay, well, I struggle then to imagine how you can explain that when someone breaks into your home or someone threatens your family or something happens in your community and you have to take action. It's not just war where men have to be strong. In fact, the primary reason for you to be strong, good with the use of firearms, understand tactics around your home, is to protect your family. End of story. You are called to be the leader and protector of your family. And people can argue that till they're blue in the face. But if you got rid of all men today around the world, there'd be no such thing as protection. And people would love the idea, oh, well, it's okay. It would be a great world. Well, there'd be no children. I can't stand the argument of trying to get rid of one sex or the other. It's so foolish at face value. And yet we go down, oh, we don't need men. There's articles, the demise of men, the death of men. There's an Atlantic article that I read about recently. It was literally talking about the end of men. It's a very sad place to be. However, we're not helping our cause by agreeing with that sentiment, first of all. And secondly, by softening ourselves to our physical demands that are needed to protect those that we love and those around us. So I want you guys to really understand today that your calling to be a warrior by no means has ended or decreased in any of its necessity. You're still called to do that, whether it's peaceful times or not peaceful times. But specifically when you're not having to go fight wars constantly, especially if you're not in the military, you still have a job to protect those around you, to protect those you love. You are still a warrior by the fact that you were born as a man. That is one of your duties. And there are some people that aren't able to fulfill that, and I understand that, and I'm not even speaking to them. I get it. Some people have been given a very short stick in that regard. But if you are capable, you are meant to be a warrior in your family and beyond. And so that can be purpose enough in your life, is to make sure that you are strong enough, built enough, mentally strong enough, stable enough, calm enough to make all of that happen effectively. And I know there are some men that is a struggle. I know there are some men where they don't think that way. However, the fact of the matter is that the world still has lots of evil in it. And if it shows up at your door, you have to be able to do something about it. I don't need you to have a giant six-pack. I don't need you to be able to deadlift more than the rest of the world. I need you to be as strong as you can physically be as intelligent as you can physically be as good with firearms as you can physically be, so that in the event that something happens, you can protect your family, which is one of the things that we are called to do, if not one of the highest things that we are called to do. And so I want you guys to walk away with that today. When you hear about people talking about this purpose void with men, which I believe we have, and a lot of that stems from the fact that I think we just don't have any biblical, just piety, generally speaking. We don't have a moral compass that we fall around, and thus it's hard to find a purpose when you have nothing, when everything that you believe in is time bound. But one of our purposes is still to be a warrior, even if we're not having to go fight wars all the time. So don't get that misconstrued. Make sure all of you understand that. Your motivations in life, your motivations in training are to be strong enough for your family. So, you do have, even if you are not the sole breadwinner of your family, guess what? That's a lot of men today. And I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong per se. I think that we're seeing different times with different things. And if a woman wants to work and make some money, that's great. I have no problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is that if you are not working, first of all, that's a problem. You need to work. Even if it feels like it's not making a ton of money or what have you, you need to work. You need to contribute. However, part of your work is protecting. It's leading. It's being physically capable. So that part of our purpose in life is unchanged, just so we're all on the same page. It doesn't make you less manly if you're not making a metric ton of money. But what does make you unmanly is if you're incapable and unwilling to protect your family. That's a problem. You still have to be a warrior. It's non-negotiable. I think I've beat this horse to complete death and then continue to beat it. You guys should all get the idea now. I know I'm repeating some of these things. I know we've talked about them on here at length, but yet I talk to men and I see men every day. And in the event that someone came to their home, it's over. They can't protect their families. And they think it's okay because they live in a nice neighborhood or, they've got alarms on their house and I just don't want to be violent. And yet story after story after story comes out of men who are incapable of protecting their families or to that end aren't around at all. They're absent fathers by choice. I know that some are not by choice absent. I get that. That's going to be talked about in the book quite a lot. Fatherlessness is one of our leading causes of pretty much every problem in the world. However, when you're choosing not to be involved in your children's lives and predators around the world see that, they're going to that house because guess what? There's not a strong man there to protect them. And that's a tragedy. That is a dereliction of duty. The words there are not enough to describe how vile that is. And the men listening to this can't allow that. One of your jobs, one of your purposes in life is to protect. It is a part of your identity as a man. Either you accept that or I have no idea. I don't know how you'd look at yourself in the mirror. And I'm not saying that to be mean to any of you. I know I need to get better in every capacity of protecting my family. There's no question about it. I am not the highest of where I can be. And I know that I need to do better. And I get that. Everyone needs to do better. So I'm not saying this to be like, oh, well, you're a piece of shit and, get out of here. No. I'm saying this to say that you have a duty. All of us have a duty as men, as a brotherhood, to protect those around us. And so I'm encouraging you. Go make a change. Be confident in the fact that you are able to do whatever you can to protect your family when the time comes. Because history is plagued with people who are stronger harming people who are weaker. And you can't allow that to happen. That's it, boys. Hot topic on a Wednesday. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Let's get after it. Let's have an incredible day. Whew. See ya.